Most people who drive a car don't give a second thought at what makes the engine fire up when the key is turned. But positioned deep in the workings of the modern internal combustion engine is a little component called the spark plug. Without that little component, there won't be any va-va-voom, as a certain footballer say. There are a number of pieces which are needed to make up a fully working spark plug. This film shows just one part of that process. The pieces you see here are called insulators, and this is how they look before being decorated and glazed. The insulator does what the name entails. It insulates the electrical charge from the rest of the spark plug. The insulator is made from a ceramic material. In its raw state it's only powder. After the shape has been formed, it's fired in a kiln for 2 days at a temperature of 1600 degrees centigrade. The insulators are twice the size you see here before they're fired. The name Champion and the number is printed on. This is where this machine comes in. It's called a decorating machine, and as the name implies, this is what it does. As you can see here, the insulators roll over a print rubber. This is how the name is applied. The ink roller is on the applicator head, which puts ink on the print rubber. It's fed by a series of main ink rollers, spreader rollers and a transfer wheel, which transfers a little drop of ink from an ink font. This is the rear of the inking unit. After the name's been printed on, the insulators are fed through a firebox, which heats them up prior to glazing. They are heated so the glaze sticks and dries out. Here you can see them coming out of the firebox and into the glaze. Because they are so hot, the glaze sticks instantly. The colour of the glaze is also important, because if there's any parts that are not glazed, you can see them quite clearly. The colour of the glaze burns off when it's in the kiln. If the glaze wasn't dry enough, the wand, which you can see here, would smudge the glaze and they wouldn't be any good. After the print and glaze has been applied, the pieces are fed onto what's called a pin line, which is basically a load of firebricks with pins in. This is the entrance to the kiln. The kiln is electrically powered. This is the temperature the insulators are fired at. Anything below that figure and the glaze will be dull and underfired. This figure is the cooling temperature, which means it's towards the exit end of the kiln. All the insulators are caught in trays at the bottom after being blown off. The pin line itself is pushed along hydraulically, as you can see here, but only at a certain speed. Otherwise the glaze wouldn't have time to fire out properly. You can see the bars which are positioned along the kiln which generate the heat. It takes a lot of power to heat up the kiln, so all the bars in the kiln are connected to 4 transformers. This is just 2 of them. And the whole process is controlled from inside this panel via a computer. This is the exit of the kiln and the entrance to the cooler, and as you can see, all the colour in the glaze is gone. This long tube is connected to a motor at the top, which blows cold air down to cool the insulators. If they weren't cooled sufficiently, they'd be too hot to be handled. In order to get them off the pin line, they are blown off with a blast of air. This square block you can see is called a blow-off block. Then after that the pin line rolls underneath and back round to the front to be filled up again. This is where they get inspected for any faults. And then on to the next stage of the process.